We all have those obstacles and those walls that we've put up around ourselves that bring fear. And moving past that fear is the first step in making sure that you put your best foot forward, and you're also being as confident and as good as you can be at whatever you are offering to the world.
Welcome to Redefine Yourself During Times of Uncertainty. I am your host, Wendy Blum-Weiss, and we have a super special show today with an extraordinary guest. We have Jamie Langley Henderson in the house, and Jamie was a prior Miss Alabama, and that's all about empowerment. And she also was a TV news anchor for CBS, and she's all about how to be camera ready and poised and get in front of the camera, being your very best self. So welcome, Jamie. We're so happy to have you here. So we'll jump right in. My first question, Jamie, is how you even got involved in entering into a pageant like Miss Alabama.
Well, actually, I did it watching my sister, because when I was very small, I used to go to all the pageants that she was in and just fell in love with the Miss America system. Of course, coming from a singing family, we always loved to sing and perform and that sort of thing. And so from a very young age, watching her do it, and then my mom teaching us both how to sing and then sing together, it was a way that I could use my talent and also be a part of an organization that supports nonprofit organizations as well. So it was a way to give back to the community as well as do something that I love to do. And so just got bitten by the bug, and I started training for it when I was a teenager, and then competed in Miss Alabama for 6 years, won on my 6th year, and competed in Miss America. And that was probably one of the best experiences of my life, because a lot of people think it's just a lot of glamour. You walk on stage in a beautiful dress, and that certainly is part of it, but you learn a lot about life skills and how to speak to a 5-star general one day and hug a baby the next, so there's a lot of different backgrounds and people that you meet and cultures that you come in contact with, and learning how to bridge the gap, kind of like what you were talking about earlier, is an important life skill that you learn. At one day I would be at the top of the state in the morning, and the evening I'd be at the bottom of the state. So you have to be able to be flexible and learn to, kind of mold into different situations. And so getting started with it at a young age and then learning the skills, it's like my mom says, it became a lifestyle. And so I just fell in love with it and love doing that, and still do it today because of it, and teach others how to do it.
What would you say is, and that is fascinating, because everybody really doesn't know what goes on behind the scenes of a pageant, and there is a lot. I always, watching the pageants, would think, wow, those girls have so much confidence to get up on stage. And the most important thing that I would hang on to is when they would do the interview process. I just, how could they speak knowing so much is at stake, and all the eyes and TV viewers are actually watching, and then they're all listening. I want to ask you about a time that you felt insecure and how you worked through those feelings, especially being in the public domain.
Well, I'm so glad you asked that, because one of the things that we're offering in this course that Julia and I are teaching are the 3 fatal mistakes. And one particular fatal mistake comes to mind every time. And it was actually my last year of competing at Miss Alabama, the year that I won. I had laryngitis and could not sing, let alone speak. So I was having a really tough time. Now we're talking nurses taking care of me and giving me B12 shots and Rocephin shots, and we were trying to knock it out of the system. Wednesday, we stay a whole week at Miss Alabama, and Wednesday was my talent day. So early on Wednesday morning, you wake up and you sing your talent, or you go through your talent twice on stage. Now, I was singing a Beyonce song at the time. Beyonce's not an easy artist to sing. And I remember waking up that morning just hoping that everything was cleared up and it was going to go smoothly, but not the case. So that morning, after 6 years of being there, one of my favorite parts of the competition, nothing came out of my mouth. And I thought, how am I going to get through this? I saw my competitors' eyes in the audience with, eyes as big as saucers, thinking, okay, another one bites the dust. We're good now. Okay, so I went into the dressing room and I thought, how am I going to handle this? And I remember a very wise person teaching me one of the biggest fatal mistakes that we have in life and competition is worrying about the things that we cannot control. And I thought, I can't help the fact that I'm sick. So how do we get around this? Because I don't want to make a fatal mistake either. So I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, okay, well, what can I do? What can I control? And I thought, I'm going to grab my boombox. I'm going to grab a CD, practice CD. And I went into the practice room and I practiced going up on notes. I practiced going down. I practiced in my chest voice, my head voice, all different kinds of ways to see which way worked the best so I could just make it through my talent without embarrassing myself that night. I brought a friend in that I trusted and she gave me her opinion and I thought, okay. I texted my director and I said, I don't know if anything's going to come out tonight, but can you just cheer really loudly and maybe it'll cover it up just in case? He said, no worries. So I let it go. And the night of competition, I was sitting on the side of the stage getting ready to perform. And I thought, this is strange because I had the biggest piece that I couldn't explain. And a friend of mine sat down beside me and she said, are you ready? And I said, I feel okay about this. And I had made up my mind, if I can hit this high note in the middle of the song, then by the end of the song, then I'm just going to go for the high note at the end of the song and just do what I can. I'm not going to worry about it. So I get on stage and middle of the song, I hit the note and I thought, oh, what have I bargained for here? Now I made a promise to myself, so I guess I'm going to do it. So you see a break at the end of the song and I just drop my head and I think, here we go. And I hit the last note and it came out. And I thought, what would have happened that night if I had worried about something that was completely 100% out of my control? Because by the time that we focus on all those things that are totally out of our realm of control, then we're losing the attention we need to the things that we can control and move past the situation. So I learned a big lesson that night and walked away winning talent and never even dreamed that would happen that morning. And so it's amazing in speaking and singing and performing and whatever we're doing, how much we do have control over our thoughts and how we present them, and also how we put it all together to put our best foot forward. And so it was a huge learning curve for me and could have been an embarrassing moment, but turned out to be one of my happiest moments of my life. So
that's a great reminder, Jamie, because so often we don't go live on camera or we don't test out something new because we're so comfortable in what we do. And there's a lot of hesitation, trepidation in being seen and being judged, actually being judged. And you're reminding me of that process of just releasing and just doing it for yourself, like being the best that you can be and be okay with whatever that is. I know a lot of people right now that are listening and that are watching are thinking about the next stage of their lives. They're thinking about redefining themselves, whether they now have to make a video for an interview for a new job, which is more and more the norm, or whether it is making a video for their website. So people can, maybe they have a big mission in their heart, but how do they transfer what is in here into a message, into their voice? And I know that's what you do now. Like you help people, you and your sister have teamed together, and your sister, Julia, who teaches singing, and you're from a performing family, and then how to use your voice, and then how to be camera ready, how to be confident, because even now, as we were setting up, like because you're traveling, right? So we're not always in a studio ready situation. Right. So what advice would you give to somebody who just needs to just do it, like to test it, just to try it? Like, what is something that they can do to give them a little bit of security in the beginning?
It all starts with your thinking, and connection always starts with your eyes. So, as far as the first step in making sure that you get over those obstacles and those fatal mistakes, you can't compare yourselves to others. Everybody, if you think about it in a big picture, we're all going through kind of a similar scenario. As my dad used to say, same song, different verse. It may be different for everyone, but in the big picture, it's kind of the same. We all have those obstacles and those walls that we've put up around ourselves that bring fear. And moving past that fear is the first step in making sure that you put your best foot forward, and you're also being as confident and as good as you can be at whatever you are offering to the world. So that's the first step. And then second of all, making sure that what those thoughts are in your head are pure and good and thoughtful. And when you move all the clutter out of the way, you're focused on your audience. And when you're focused on your audience and you're delivering a message, they see it through your eyes. So connecting through the eyes is so very important. But in order to do that and do it effectively and be a trustworthy, credible source that they're going to for that information or entertainment, then you have to have your thought processes right. So I say start with that. It can be very intimidating to be on camera and recording. Again, my sister and I, Julia could probably tell you the same thing. When you hear yourself, whether it be on camera or singing a song on a recording, it is the most humbling experience. And we sound different to ourselves when we're recorded as opposed to when we're hearing it come from ourselves just naturally. So getting over that hurdle and just realizing that, hey, we all have those insecurities, but the one important thing is we are here for a purpose, and our purpose needs to be heard. And if we would take the initiative to step forward and remove all the clutter and all the negative thought processes, whether it's about ourselves or others, and put ourselves out there and really do and live out our purpose, that's the first and most important thing that you can do.
That's a great reminder to connect to your mission and to connect to your why. I know when I first started speaking, the first, 20 times that I spoke on stage, I had printed out my mission statement and I framed it and I took it with me to my talks, and I actually had it on stage. It was sort of like having my blanket with me, or it was a comfort because it reminded me why I was there. And that gave me the chutzpah, it gave me the confidence. And I actually talked about it in the beginning, which is really the whole purpose of doing this show, that if somebody hears, the technology and the sound may not be perfect, and it may be a little messy here and there, maybe not exactly the right way to deliver a message. But if one person walks away with a pearl of insight, like hearing your message to connect with the purpose, or the eyes to connect and really think about that, then that makes it all worthwhile. And then you can go to sleep at night with your head on the pillow and feel that in some way that you added a little drop of something positive back out into the world. And so as a TV news anchor, you're as a pageant, you're on a stage and you're looking at people, right? Even though it's broadcasted TV, you have an audience in front of you, right? Is that right? I mean, I don't know, because I haven't been on at a pageant. But then as a TV news anchor and working for CBS, a major network like that, you are then in a studio setting. So how different does that feel?
Oh, it's so different. And especially when you grow up on a stage singing and performing in front of people, and then you're in front of a camera, it's a totally different ball of wax that you have to learn. But again, it's part of the thinking process. You have to pretend, like I know you showed us earlier, that sometimes you have pictures set up so you pretend that there's an audience there listening to you. That's so wise. So for me, it's all in how I'm approaching it and thinking it. So when I'm looking at the camera, I'm thinking, beside or past the words that are scrolling, I'm thinking that there's a family sitting on a couch looking at me and trusting me with the information that I'm giving them. So visualizing that, it does something to your subconscious and it taps into that part. So again, you're connecting with people through your eyes because you feel like you're talking to them. Does that make sense?
I love it because you feel like you're in somebody's home.
Right.
You actually feel, and
Yes.
I love that you said a family. So then you're seeing, you know, a husband, a wife, a brother, a sister, a mother, you're seeing children, you're seeing a dog, you're seeing, you know, everybody just in a beautiful way and just listening to get information. And you're
Right. Kind of
delivering.
like, yes, you're in their living room and they see you that way. So in order to bridge the gap, you have to imagine that you're right there with them, being their hostess or their host, you know, and taking them through the events of the day. And so thinking of a family always worked for me because when you're hosting someone at your house, then you want to make sure everyone is included. So that's a way to do that in people and to build credibility with people of all ages and all backgrounds.
I also notice from now the other side when people are like looking at you. So you're looking at them and visualizing them, and then people are looking at you and you know they're looking at your hair, they're looking at your makeup, or you're looking at their outfit. And so you know, are there certain colors or certain, you know, things that you do want to do to make sure that you are prepared to be in front of the camera?
Oh, yes. And that's such a great question. There are lots of things that you can do, but a really quick tip I can give you too to narrow it down, because I know that we don't have enough time to tell you all the things, but something very important when it comes to colors. You mentioned colors. It's great. Highly saturated colors like jewel tones or bright colors work best on camera. Because it creates a vivid image and you want to bring attention to your face. So any accessories that you use, you want to make sure that they complement your face. If you're a necklace kind of person, you want to make sure that it's a necklace that doesn't distract from you. Necklines that look great with your body type are great, but any kind of interesting necklines that you can have when you're a talking head, as we call it in the newscast world, that works great to bring attention to your face, because again, you connect with people through your eyes, and that's how they build trust. That's how we connect in our relationships. And so to be able to do that, you want to draw attention to your face. So bright colors, jewel tones work best. I would suggest no white on camera because that detracts from you because of a lot of HD settings we have these days. No, prints, if they're very small prints, sometimes make your eyes cross if you're an audience watcher. So, and I'm a print kind of girl, but I have to leave it off when I'm on camera because again, you want to connect with people through their eyes and you want to bring your attention to your face. So a little tip for you. There's so much we could get into in the weeds.
That's a lot. And I know you teach this, and I know you teach this online, and I know you have ongoing courses to become on camera ready, on camera prep. And so I'll have the links to your classes and your contact and your information in the description section below. But thank you so much, Jamie. And any other words of wisdom that you would like to part with for our guests?
Just believe in yourself. And I know we have that so many times driven into our mentality, but it is so true because, again, like I said earlier, we all have a purpose here just by simply taking up space in a room. Your presence is so very important. And my mom used to tell us when we were young that we don't need another, whoever our role model was at the time. We need a Jamie Langley Henderson. We need a Joya Langley. We need our specific skill set, and by ours, I mean all of us. So believe in yourself and move past your fears because we need to hear your voice and we need to hear and see your talents. So if I had one piece of advice, just know that you have a purpose, you are meant to be here, and we need to see and hear it. The world does.
Okay, we're going to end on that. Powerful and strong. Thank you so much, Jamie, for being here. And thank you, everyone. Look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, Wendy. Thanks for having me.